I'm Jason UFC, and today we have a story about UFC lightweight contender Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan has been announced for UFC 300, with the winner to face UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev later in 2024. UFC CEO, let's get this pop up out of here. UFC CEO Dana White announced on Sunday that Charles Oliveira will face Arman Tsarukyan in a lightweight title eliminator bout at UFC 300 at T-Mobile Arena here in Las Vegas. Dana White added that the winner of the April 13th UFC 300 bout will become the number one contender for champion Islam Makhachev, who Dana White expects to return in the summer of 2024. Charles Oliveira was originally set to fight Islam Makhachev at UFC 294 last year, last October 2023, but a last-minute cut suffered during a training camp forced Charles Oliveira out of the main event spot. I believe it was a cut above his right eye. Charles Oliveira was subsequently replaced by featherweight champion Alexander Volkanovski, which was a rematch fight for Islam Makhachev also, who ended up losing that fight via a first round, I believe it was a head kick knockout. Islam Makhachev head kick knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in their fight in October. Charles Dubronx Oliveira first fought Islam Makhachev at UFC 280 for a vacant lightweight title, which Islam Makhachev won by submission in the second round. I believe that was a arm triangle submission, right? That's my favorite finish. I love to see the arm triangle finish. That's my favorite finish. I believe that's how Islam Makhachev defeated Charles Oliveira in the second round. In his most recent outing this past June, Oliveira scored a first-round TKO knockout, or first-round TKO, right, over Beneil Dariush to earn a second crack at Islam Makhachev. Now the former champion Charles Oliveira has to overcome Arman Tsarukyan to regain the title rematch opportunity. Arman Tsarukyan seeking his own rematch versus Islam Makhachev after losing a hard-fought decision to the current champion Islam Makhachev in Arman Tsarukyan debuted 5 years ago. So Islam Makhachev has already defeated Arman Tsarukyan, and he defeated Charles Oliveira. When Islam Makhachev defeated Arman Tsarukyan 5 years ago, that was a decision. And when Islam Makhachev defeated Charles Oliveira, that was a second round submission. Since that encounter, Arman Tsarukyan has won 8 of his past 9 fights. Okay, so we got some movement here in the UFC lightweight division. Also announced for UFC 299 was Dustin Poirier versus Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis. I believe Benoit Saint Denis is like ranked number 12, number 13 in the UFC lightweight division. I'm an MMA casual, so I can't follow everything. I don't remember all of this stuff in the UFC, but I believe this is going to be a really good fight for Dustin Poirier. I was asking a few days ago why Dustin Poirier can't fight someone outside of the top 10. It felt like he was just saying that he only wanted fights in the top 5. So it's good to see Dustin Poirier finally open that door, put the ladder down for someone outside of the top 5 to get an opportunity. I believe Benoit Saint Denis is like on a 5-fight win streak, so he's a problem. This is going to be a really great matchup for Benoit Saint Denis, and we'll see where Dustin Poirier is after losing to Justin Gaethje. Second, I think that was a head kick knockout also, right? But with all these matchups announced, we do have, the odd person left out, which would be Justin Gaethje, right? Gaethje coming off of a victory over Dustin Poirier became the BMF title holder a few weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, maybe a week ago. Jorge Masvidal just put out a random tweet. People don't really know what it meant. We don't know if he was trolling, but he did put a tweet out saying unretired. I don't know if he followed up on that tweet. Like I said, I'm a casual, so I don't remember everything. But I know, it seems a little odd that you get a Dustin Poirier fight versus Benoit Saint Denis. You get a Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan, and then you have Justin Gaethje just sitting out there with like no opponent. So maybe the tweet of Jorge Masvidal saying unretired, he wants to come back and get the belt that he had, which was the BMF title. Maybe the UFC is looking at a Justin Gaethje versus a Jorge Masvidal. But something that is possible, not likely, but is possible, could be Justin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor. Is that possible, right? UFC 300. UFC 300, a lot of fans are saying they really, really want, a big matchup. Right now, it looks like the main event is going to be probably Leon Edwards versus Bilal Muhammad, and I don't know how much people really want to see that fight. That would be a rematch. I believe that fight ended in a no contest when Bilal Muhammad got poked in the eye. For some reason, the UFC refuses to make Tom Aspinall versus Stipe Miocic, right, for the interim title, heavyweight title. I don't know if anyone in the UFC has ever defended the interim title without making it an undisputed championship, right? I think usually after someone gets an interim title, the next fight for them is undisputed. But with Tom Aspinall sitting out there waiting for John Jones to come back, I think the UFC should just make Tom Aspinall versus Stipe Miocic at UFC 300. Why not make that fight? Both of them are healthy. John Jones just tore something in his shoulder or in his chest or something. So he's going to be out for a while. Tom Aspinall is ready to go. Stipe Miocic, ready to go. I think that would make not the greatest UFC 300 matchup of all time, but it would make sense to put that on the card. Or you could have Justin Gaethje defending the BMF title versus Jorge Masvidal or Conor McGregor. That's possible. With the fight between Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan, I'm a huge fan of Charles Oliveira. I do want to caution just a little bit that Charles Oliveira last year, both of his fights were delayed because of injury, right? Like, people kind of forget that, the fight versus Beneil Dariush, that fight was delayed by like a month, right? I think it was originally scheduled to happen earlier, and then they pushed it back, and I believe Charles Oliveira ended up defeating Beneil Dariush in a fight in Canada, right? So Charles Oliveira, that fight with Beneil Dariush, the first fight was delayed, and then they ended up fighting, I believe it was a month, maybe 2 months later. And then once again, Charles Oliveira was supposed to fight Islam Makhachev, but he got injured in camp, so that fight never happened. Now, Charles Oliveira is going to fight Arman Tsarukyan, both of them coming off of first round knockouts, first round TKOs, first round victories over Beneil Dariush, right? So that's going to be obviously a number one contendership fight. We'll see who wins that fight. I'm rooting for Charles Oliveira because that's my boy. But like I said, with Dustin Poirier and Beneil, what do I keep saying Beneil? And Benoit Saint Denis, with that fight happening, that's good. 2 top 15 contenders. Like I said, I believe Benoit Saint Denis is like ranked number 12 or number 13 outside of the top 10, but he's a surging contender. I believe he has like 5 straight victories. Then you have Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan for the number one contendership fight. I believe that's only a 3-round fight. The Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Saint Denis, that's at UFC 299 in Miami, headlined by Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera. The That fight's going to be a 5-round fight, even though it's not a number one contendership fight. It's not a title eliminator fight. That fight will be a 5-round fight. But the Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan on UFC 300, I believe it's only going to be a 3-round fight. From what I understand, I didn't hear anything about that being anything else. But like I said, it still leaves out Justin Gaethje, and obviously we haven't said anything about the champion, Islam Makhachev, who's coming off of what was it, a first round? Second? I think it was a first round. Wasn't it a first round head kick knockout of Alexander Volkanovski? So Islam Makhachev is not going to be fighting. Obviously, I don't think he's going to be fighting at UFC 300. So Islam Makhachev, probably we won't see him until June, July, right? June, July at the earliest. Which is another thing you kind of have to just be a little bit concerned on, right? Because if you're going to say that Islam Makhachev is going to be ready to fight in June or July, with this fight between Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan taking place in April, right? You got April, you got May, then you got June. So you kind of barely have 2 months, right? It's not going to be that much time. If they're trying to have a quick turnaround with the winner of that fight, so we have to see what damage is done between Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan, because it's very easy right now to say, okay, those two are fighting in April, and the winner will be ready by June or July, and it's just like that almost never happens, right? So we have to see how long that fight. Maybe they're looking at Islam Makhachev fighting in October in like Dubai. The UFC has been having a few shows in Dubai at the end of the year. Maybe that's when they're talking about. Maybe not summer of 2024. Maybe late or early fall of 2024. But I do want to mention that let's not just guarantee that, the winner of Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan will be ready to fight Islam Makhachev in a 5-round championship fight, in June or July, because that's going to be a kind of a quick turnaround. Obviously, like I said, we have some history with Charles Oliveira getting injured. He got injured before. Benio Dariush, he got injured before Islam Makhachev. So we got to see what happens at UFC 300. With Justin Gaethje still being the last man out there, two really good options for Justin Gaethje would be Jorge Masvidal for Justin Gaethje to defend his BMF title versus Jorge Masvidal, who recently, I don't know if he followed up on the tweet or if he was trolling, but Jorge Masvidal did recently come out and say he's unretired. So we'll see about that. And Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler, I don't know what's going on there. It's so much drama. Conor said he's going to fight International Fight Week, June, and that fight's going to be in the middleweight division. So I don't know if Conor McGregor's trolling. I don't know if Jorge Masvidal's trolling. I have no idea what's going on. But I like the idea of a Justin Gaethje versus a Conor versus a Jorge Masvidal for the BMF title. Why not? Have some fun with that. UFC 300. Throw that on UFC 300, because that's the card we really want to stack. And right now, with no Tom Aspinall versus Stipe Miocic, with no Islam Makhachev defending his title, maybe Dricus du Plessis versus Sean Strickland, the winner of that fight, maybe who fights in January, maybe they could have a kind of a fast turnaround and defend that belt at UFC 300 in April, but I'm not going to rely on that. I think the UFC should look at having maybe Masvidal versus Justin Gaethje at UFC 300. Throw it on the card. Why not? We'll see. But let me know your opinion of this fight. Who do you think is going to win? Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan. I'm going to be Team Charles Oliveira, because he's just my boy. But Arman Tsarukyan is a serious problem, right? It's going to be a great fight. Looking forward to this matchup. But let me know your opinion of this story, because I am an MMA casual. So what the hell do I know? Hit the like button. Oh, I'm Jason, UFC. Today we had a story about Charles Oliveira, UFC lightweight contenders. Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan has been announced for UFC 300. The winner will face UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev in 2024. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.